Dan Perry joins us once again to discuss the developing situation happening in Iran. Over the past 12 days, of course, we've seen unrest that has spread throughout the entire nation. Are these protests different to what we have seen previously, Dan? Could this be part of something bigger?
Well, they're actually smaller than protests that we saw at various junctures some years ago. The difference is that the government is much weaker and sees itself as more brittle than it perhaps did a few years ago, and again, more than a decade ago, and we had two other waves of violence and protest. And by the way, the protests are increasing all the time at great speed. That may also be a difference. The context is that the Real really has collapsed since the June war with Israel. The June war with Israel constituted a spectacular humiliation for the Islamic Republic. Its airspace was completely unprotected. Its key military and nuclear scientific figures were eliminated in the first hours of the war. Its nuclear program and ballistic missile program were muchly destroyed. It's been exposed as a bit of a paper tiger. Moreover, it's the various militias that the Islamic Republic had squandered the Iranian people's diminishing financial resources on all around the region. Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Iraqi militias have been also set back in the past 2 years of war. So the entire Iranian jihadist chaos project is on the back foot. The economy in Iran is in shambles, and there is a middle class and a youthful contingent in the Iranian population that has really had enough with the Islamic Republic. But oftentimes, and I would add usually in such situations, it's the military that in the end determines what will happen. And we've already seen dozens of people killed in these past almost 2 weeks of rioting, and much depends on whether the military agrees to continue this. If they don't, if the military breaks with the Islamic Republic, that's very dramatic, and that could echo what happened, for example, in Romania in 1989, or in Egypt in 2011, when what looked like a revolution was essentially, at the end of the day, a military coup coming on top of popular discontent and protest in the streets. I think Trump was right in warning that America is locked and loaded to come to the rescue if Iran starts killing people in the streets. But of course, Trump being Trump, he took his eye off the ball, or appears to have. They need to double down on that warning and make very clear to the Iranian military and also to the others, to the Revolutionary Guard and to the police, that the world will not stand for a massacre of Iranians. The military specifically should have motivation in correcting their own mistake in 1979 when they allowed the original Ayatollah Khomeini to, within months of his return after the Shah had fled, establish Islamist theocracy and a total police state by virtue of a referendum that was completely falsified, where 99% of the Iranians supposedly agreed to this, and the military stood by and let it happen because they thought that Khomeini would be some temporary transition figure, and the idea of a ruthless theocracy is one that they could not possibly be serious about. Well, that was a monumental, colossal, tragic miscalculation, and they may want to correct it at this time.
Dan Perry, as always, it is a pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time and joining us here on NewsX World.